What would happen if the rain never stops? Do you know if continents and mountains are well organized, there will always be places where there is more or less rain at all times, indefinitely. When it rains, it falls to the ground or the ocean and there is almost no vapor at all, when the relative humidity is very high, as it should be when it is raining. What it rains about 3 feet, that is 1 meter each year. It means that all seas, even lakes, swimming pools with open doors, rise by about 3 feet a year. Not because that's the case, because they also evaporate about 1 meter a year because the first drop has to go up there. What do you mean by asking, what will happen? Is there something to worry about? Think about it for a moment. What do you think will happen? Number 8. You have 2 things to consider: whether the Earth's water cycle is a closed system in terms of the total water content within our atmosphere remains constant, or can an external water source enter our atmosphere and increase the volume of water in our system. If the first is true, the rest of the world will be devastated as a result of a hurricane, tsunami, or other water evacuation event, but the floodwaters will eventually return to their sources either by runoff or evaporation. If the second is true, eventually the water will recede to the lowest parts of the Earth, and only the highest mountains and plateaus of the planet will remain. Everything else is underwater. Given that, consider what happens to people's homes, their possessions, and their necessary infrastructure during the water mentioned above transfers. Think of it all over the world. Number 7. The power to create from anywhere. For example, this past winter, we received marathon 92 inches of rain between the beginning of October and the end of April. And there was a time many years ago when it rained every day for a month and a half. Number 6. What I saw in those days was that if I didn't stop raining, people would end up in a state of shock. The rain is slight when it rains for a few days, but there is a day or two of sunshine where you can get some rest. But the constant rain blows you away. It requires a lot of energy. It also hurts to keep dressing and taking out extra clothes, hats, and boots 2 or 3 times a day, every day, when you take the dog out. Number 5. If it doesn't stop raining, we can learn to adapt, because that's what people do, but it's sad to think about not seeing the sun again, getting wet all the time, and learning to deal with mold and mildew. Shiver. Number 4. In regions where rainfall is expected for more than 1,000 years, the environment has created natural drainage systems. However, if it rains in those regions where the rainfall is low, it will cause damage, as it will cause total flooding. The worst times are when there is no drinking water, even though there is water everywhere. You cannot go anywhere, and the whole world ultimately limits you. Nowadays, most of the electricity, telephone, power lines etc. are underground, and the rains lead to the complete suspension of these items. Even in areas where it rains, if it always rains, the site will be flooded. Number 3. The consequences of not raining depends on what you describe as rain. If you define it, as Google tells it, I can make the waterfall below the level of rainfall per hour. This will not have much effect, as it will only rain per bucket per year per square mile. This will not affect the weather for the next few thousand years. The Earth is getting more water from asteroids than you would get from this rain. And it will still be rain, according to Google, because it will be visible droplets again. Number 2. Plant life depends on the sun and water to survive. Continued rain and cloud cover can kill many of the plants we rely on for oxygen. And many of our plants will die too. Number 1. Finding clean drinking water can also be a challenge. Extreme flooding leads to dangerous pollution flowing into our ponds, rivers and lakes, which can increase the spread of disease. Did this video help you? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Also, keep in mind subscribing to our channel to stay tuned with upcoming mysterious videos every week.